Good evening, everybody. And firstly, thank you for turning up tonight in this unbearable heat. Some of us were in the council chamber last night and I think felt quite ill at the end of it. We did look at whether it was possible to move the meeting, but it actually isn't once the papers have been published. So I apologise that this is still going on. You're all right, Simon. Very nice music, Simon.
Thank you.
That's all right, don't worry. Don't worry. So we have some apologies for absence. We've got Councillor Allen, Councillor Bennett, Councillor Owenson and Councillor Palmer. Item 2, any members with a declaration of interest? No? Okay, thank you. So confirmation of the previous minutes, which was the 18th of March, seems a very long time ago. Could I have a proposer? Thanks, Mark, and a seconder. Thanks, John. Okay, so Chair's announcements. Well, firstly, I'd like to thank Beverly, Councillor Nielsen, for stepping in as chair over the last year and doing such a brilliant job. And yeah, so I am glad to be back in the chair, but I quite enjoy being on the other side as well. I'll introduce the officers. So I've got Simon Jones on my left, who's the development manager, and he'll be presenting the planning application M25-01954 Holywell Chapel. Then we've got Rachel Charrington Walker, legal advisor. And then next to Rachel, we've got Natalie Thornton, senior lawyer. And Natalie is shadowing Rachel because she will be taking over from Rachel. Rachel's going to be concentrating more on Whichover, aren't you? Yes. Yeah, so she's leaving us. Not quite, but almost. And then we've got Jennifer Hilton Trout at the end, Democratic Services Officer. We've had a bit of a nightmare today trying to sort things out, haven't we? But we've sorted it in the end. Okay, so I'll go straight on to the update sheet, which is, as I've just mentioned, M25-01954. No, 0951. I haven't got my right glasses on, 4, which is in Castle Morton, Welland and Wells Ward, Holywell Chapel, Holywell Road, Malvern. We carried out a site visit yesterday morning, which was actually really useful. So thank you very much to the Cottage in the Wood, and thank you very much to our officers for organising that. Joshua was going to be presenting the planning application tonight, but Simon has gallantly stepped in to take over. So we'll move on to Simon presenting the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Good. Good evening, Chairman, members, members of the public. Okay, the application has been referred to Planning Committee by the local ward member due to the level of public interest generated by local residents. Members are being asked to consider an application for the change of use of an existing holiday let unit known as the Chapel, located within Malvern Wells, to form an event space ancillary to and associated with the operation of the Cottage in the Woods Hotel. The application site is identified by the red line boundary shown on the image displayed. Members will note that the application site forms part of the wider landholding associated with the Cottage in the Wood Hotel, with the extent of the wider ownership shown by the blue line boundary. The only significant external work is the construction, reconstruction, strengthening of the existing balcony structure to enable the proposed use. Presently, and the members who were on the site visit will have noted that that was, we were advised that was constructed for a sort of suitable tolerance for a holiday let, but for something of this nature obviously needs to be slightly more robust, but the appearance of it would be the same. We're talking about the substructure really that needs to be improved for that. Moving on to the next slide. This slide shows the proposed internal arrangement for the building for use as an event space. The venue would accommodate a maximum of 40 guests and would include a bar area, small kitchen facilities, and ground floor WC provision. Members should note that matters such as alcohol sales, regulated entertainment, and music provision may require separate licensing approvals. These matters fall outside the scope of this planning application and would be considered separately under the relevant licensing legislation. Slide 5. External facilities and parking. In addition to the change of use, the application includes proposals for a sauna, plunge pool and pergola within the grounds of the northwest of the chapel.
Simon, could I just stop you for a minute? Is that your phone again or something? What's making the noise?
Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Simon, to interrupt you.
Yeah. Apologies for that. Okay, we've dealt with slide 5. Slide 6. The application site is located within the Malvern Hills National Landscape. As such, consideration has been given to relevant policies within the South Worcestershire Development Plan, including policies SWDPR 28, 31 and 34. The proposal has also been assessed against the relevant provisions of the National Planning Policy Framework and the statutory duty under Section 85 of the Countryside and Rights of Way Act 2000 to conserve and enhance the natural beauty of the national landscape. The proposed sauna, plunge pool and pergola are modest in scale and located within a well-screened part of the site. Due to the existing vegetation, topography and relationship with surrounding development, these additions would not appear intrusive or have a significant impact on wider landscape views. Officers therefore consider that the proposal would preserve the character and scenic quality of the national landscape and accords with the relevant policy and legislative requirements. In respect of the impact on Malvern Wells Conservation Area, the site's located within the conservation area. Section 72(1) of the Planning, Listed Building and Conservation Areas Act requires special attention to be given to preserving or enhancing the character and appearance of conservation areas. Relevant development plan policies include SWDPR 9 relating to the historic environment and SWDPR 33 relating specifically to development affecting conservation areas. The proposal has been assessed carefully in terms of its impact on the conservation area. The proposed external additions are modest in scale and located within a well-screened area, limiting their visibility from public viewpoints. There are no significant alterations proposed to the chapel itself, with works primarily limited to internal changes and strengthening of the existing balcony, which I referred to earlier. Officers therefore consider that the proposal would preserve the character and appearance of the Malvern Wells conservation area and would result in no harm to its significance. Here's a slide showing the existing parking and site access arrangements. And the following slide shows the access point onto Holywell Lane, and together with the proposed additional parking provision. And then, which is in here, and the chapel's the other side of this building, which is a holiday let. Sorry, is going to be one of the facilities that's already got a permission. Yes, here we got just some site photographs showing the chapel and the provision of those facilities. This is the roof of an existing holiday let, which is also within the grounds of the hotel. And here's the parking area looking back to the to the access that's obtained through the hotel. And that's yes, the nearest residential property is located approximately 28 metres from the application site. Having regard to the separation distance, the existing site context and the proposed controls, officers consider that, subject to an appropriate noise management plan being secured, including controls relating to amplified music, the proposal would not result in an unacceptable impact on neighbouring residential amenity. To conclude, officers consider that the proposal represents an appropriate change of use which would support the continued operation of the Hotel in the Wood, providing preserving the character of the surrounding area, the Malvern Hills National Landscape and the Malvern Wells Conservation Area. Subject to the recommended conditions, the development is considered acceptable and is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Simon, and well done on behalf of Joshua. Right, public participation. We don't have any parish council representatives. Objector, we did have an objector, well, two objectors, a husband and wife. They can't come tonight because of the heat, really. Oh.
Yes, Joshua had said I would speak. He emailed me to say that I would speak, but about 8 days ago.
Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't receive any notification.
Oh,
it needs to come through our system to register.
Joshua said Joshua said he'd do that.
I'm sorry, I didn't have anything about that at all. It didn't come through. I don't know. He's not here, so I don't know what. No, it should always come through Democratic Services. Yeah,
well, if we can't take a message from planning.
Sorry. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. He didn't contact, so we haven't registered. It needs to be done the day before. We haven't received anything.
Can I show you the email from him to show that I'm speaking?
You can do at the end of the meeting. I'll have a look, but we can't allow you to speak. I'm afraid, so it doesn't fall within our criteria for public.
It's only 3 minutes, and this is the impact.
I know, but we're not able to do that.
But residents, we had 37 objections about community, about nature, and about low traffic.
What can we do? Can we let him speak? Yeah, I do. So we had Mr. Coombs, who was registered to speak, and his wife. They were going to do the two of them were going to do it together. Those are the only objectors that we had registered to speak. In terms of the constitution, all of the representations for registering to speak need to come through Democratic Services and need to be registered by 12 o'clock on the day before. So I don't know why that wasn't done. In terms of, yeah, so we can't allow you to speak, I'm afraid. I mean, Malcolm. Jen was going to read out Mr. Coombs's comments. So we've agreed that Jen will do it on behalf of Mr. Coombs. So I think that's all we can do. So we have got an objector's notes, which are going to be read out to the committee. Well, we would only normally have one objector speaking anyway, so it would have been Mr. Coombs. Mr. Coombs was registered to speak. He said today that he can't make it because of the heat, which is understandable. So what we've agreed, which is quite unusual anyway, is for an officer, not a planning officer, so an officer who's not been involved in the application, to actually read out Mr. Coombs's comments, and he's happy with that. So as chair, I think we've done the best we can to allow an objector's comments to be read out to the committee. So Jen will check when we get back why what didn't happen. I don't know why. It might have just been an email between yourself and Joshua, but it should always be done through Democratic Services. But rest assured that we do have Mr. Coombs' comments, and Jenny's going to read those out. We would only have been able to have the one objector anyway, so. Okay, so I'm going to ask Jen now to read out Mr. Coombs' comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just bear with me. I'm just going to put up the timing for it. Okay, thank you. So, as the Chair explained, I'm speaking on behalf of the objector, Mr. and Mrs. Coombs, and I'm going to read out the information that they've given me. The objectors are concerned about the impact of the proposal could have on the neighbouring residents and the sustainability of the site for activities being proposed. The development backs directly onto neighbouring properties and access is via a very steep, narrow road. It's already a difficult route to use safely, and there have been incidents where vehicles have been damaged. More traffic associated with the events would only increase the risks. The objectors are also concerned about the noise and disturbance. There don't appear to be any clear mitigation measures proposed to protect the nearby residents. The application refers to the chapel being used for events, but the term is very broad and could cover a wide range of activities. The objectors are concerned that in allowing the events, it would be opening a Pandora's box to types of gatherings that could cause real issues for the neighbours, such as music festivals and weddings. Given the size of the chapel, the objectors struggle to understand how the events would be accommodated and managed without affecting neighbours. Events can also bring additional issues such as increased vehicle movements, late night arrivals and departures, congregating outside, noise, smoking and drinking, all of which have the potential to create a nuisance and security concerns in what is otherwise a quiet residential area within an area of outstanding natural beauty. Parking is also a concern, and the objectors are worried that parking allocations by their properties could be compromised in the future by people using the venue during an event, which would lead to disruption for the residents. Finally, the objectors wish to raise serious concerns about access for emergency services. The road is steep and challenging, and in the past there's been serious accidents, one in which involving a vehicle that overturned and entered a neighbour's garden, which required police and ambulance attendance. Large delivery and catering vehicles already struggle to manoeuvre in the area, including turning into the site. In the event of a fire or medical emergency at the chapel itself, especially with the site being near a wooded location, emergency access could be difficult. For these reasons, the objector is concerned that granting permission for an event use of this location could lead to ongoing disturbances and impacts that are not adequately addressed by the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Very well read. Thank you. I hope that covers the views from the objector, which, as I say, he was registered. So that's what would have happened anyway. Okay. Right. So applicant or applicant's agent. Thank you.
Good evening, councillors. As members of the Area Planning Committee tonight, you will shortly determine an application for a modest 40 cover event space at a cottage in the wood. The proposal has been carefully assessed by your case planning officer, who recommends approval, and we respectfully ask that you support the application. We ask you to consider 5 straightforward points. The first one, traffic. The event space is ancillary to the 32-bedroom hotel. Many guests will be staying at the hotel, so their attendance will be a linked trip as opposed to a separate journey. And in practical terms, this means the proposal will not generate the level of vehicle movements that might be expected from a standalone venue. Secondly, the access arrangements. The road includes established passing spaces, pedestrian pavement, and night lighting is nearly installed. A local bus route is also within a 4-minute walk, giving staff and visitors a realistic, sustainable travel option, supporting the objectives of the NPPF. On highway safety, the NPPF is clear that refusal on highway grounds should only occur where there's the residual cumulative impact will be severe or where there's unacceptable impacts to highway safety. A small 40 cover space operating alongside an existing hotel across daytime and evening periods cannot reasonably be characterised as a severe impact. Parking and turning. The 10 additional spaces have already been constructed and are operating safely. They allow parking, turning and servicing to take place within the Cottage in the Wood zone boundaries without requiring further development of any more green space or causing vehicles to wait or manoeuvre on the wider highway network. Fifth, but finally and most importantly, the local economic benefits. The proposal will strengthen the long-term viability of an existing rural business, create 8 full-time jobs, including 3 managerial roles, and increase the reliable demand for neighbouring farms and independent suppliers through the existing local first procurement approach. Guests will also support nearby pubs, shops, and visitors' attractions in the Malvern Hills economy. To give the committee confidence, the applicant is happy to accept the planning conditions suggested by the case officer, and the applicant is committed to managing the venue responsibly. This is not a speculative proposal. It is a modest, scaled extension of the existing hotel operation, and in our view, the application represents the efficient and most sustainable use of the existing building, supports rural tourism, local employment, and does so without placing undue pressure on local infrastructure. And so we respectfully urge you to support your professional planning team's recommendation and approve the application. And I've got a dry mouth now.
Chair, I know this is against the rules, but is there any chance I could speak upon the member of the public as well? No. Okay. Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Well done for turning out 2 days running. Councillor Wood, Jules, thank you and welcome back to the chair. Tonight I'm speaking as the ward councillor and as the councillor who called this application into the committee. This was due to concerns raised by local residents and Malvern Wells Parish Council, which I attended on the night that they discussed this. And there were members of the public there too. I want to make it clear that the Cottage in the Wood is a valued local business and an important part of our visitor economy. My concern is whether this proposal is appropriate in this location. This is a special part of Malvern Hills national landscape. People choose to live and stay here because of its beauty, character and tranquility, and that's part of the attraction to staying at the Cottage in the Wood as well. But having visited the site, what struck me was not its separation from neighbouring residents, but crucially, its proximity to them. Because the chapel sits on the hillside, its balcony and outdoor areas look directly down towards the rear of the neighbouring apartments below. Residents are not distant from this proposal, they are immediate neighbours of it. I am concerned that the application relies heavily on the assumption that guests will remain indoors. Members may wish to consider how realistic that assumption is. People attending celebrations and social events naturally want to step outside, enjoy the surroundings and talk with friends and family, particularly during warmer weather. This is entirely normal behaviour. However, it is precisely that behaviour which has the potential to affect neighbouring residents. I'm also concerned about traffic and access. The report refers to adequate public transport provision. Members who know Malvern Wells, especially our county councillor, may raise an eyebrow at that. The practical reality is that most guests attending events are likely to arrive by car or taxi. Direct access to the site is via a track immediately behind residential apartments. Any increase in vehicle movements, particularly in the evenings, will be experienced directly by those residents. And I take the point that Jen read out about emergency vehicles as well. For me, the central issue is this. The success of this proposal appears to depend on guests not using the very outdoor areas that make the venue attractive in the first place. I therefore ask members to give significant weight to the concerns of local residents and the parish council and to consider carefully whether residential amenity has truly been protected. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Councillor Wild. As you're aware, as you're not a member of the committee, you're not able to vote. Yeah, okay. You can stay in the room, of course. Oh, are you? Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair, and welcome back to your rightful place. First of all, I'd like to thank the officer for what's actually quite an extensive report and so well written and well argued. So there's quite a lot in it. So when you first look at it, you think some of the issues are fairly straightforward, but they're not as you delve into it. So it's the Cottage in the Wood submission, and as Christine said, it's actually a valued business in Malvern and Malvern Wells, and we wish that it remains so. So we have to look at it to some extent in the context of the submission, that it's actually a functioning business, and what they're wanting to do is to have a change of use of some aspect of that business into an event space, I think is what they call it. Now, the Wells Parish Council have objected on highway safety issues. There are significant traffic and safety issues associated with the location of it, is the claim. There's noise and disturbance which affects that particular setting, and there is harm to the residential amenity and intrusion into neighbours next to it. I think there's 28 metres away to the nearest accommodation, as it says in the report. It's not suitable building for commercial use is also another claim by the parish council. Slightly, I have a bit of a difficulty with that because it's actually commercially used already. So I'm not sure that is a valid criticism of the business. Turning to highways, highways actually recommend a refusal on this. They say there's an unacceptable impact on safety due to the constrained setting that it sits in. There is no credible mitigation to overspill parking at peak periods of use. And Hollywell Road is a difficult road to travel on. It is narrow and passing is difficult. So anybody who's sort of been up and down there knows that this is it's not an easy site for anything, but Cottage in the Wood already exists up in that space already, and there is a business functioning in it. So the increase in vehicle traffic and parking arising from the development would impede free flow. That's the statement from Highway. So there's an issue there to be addressed. It's not necessarily a reason for refusing it, but there is a problem there with free flow traffic. The Malvern Hills National Landscape have expressed concern about the intensity and pattern of use with it, saying that the tranquility of the setting is impacted, that light pollution increase detracts from and is harmful to the setting, and that there are behavioural and traffic issues to take into consideration. Malvern Civic Society object and cogently state that the geography of the area and in the immediate vicinity impose limits on parking. So parking is a major issue for all people who have been objecting to it. So it gives rise to further problems on the access roads because of that. 27 other objections have been raised, and they incite intensification of use in a quiet rural area, increased traffic, parking problems, noise and disturbance, and impact on the wildlife, and incompatibility with the rural, peaceful and protected setting that it sits in. Now, turning to the officer appraisal. The officer appraisal is this about an expansion of an established business. And it aligns with the NPPF objectives of supporting economic growth. So there's a shift between, or a tension, I think is the words in the report, between supporting economic growth and the privacy and preservation of an area of outstanding natural beauty, a national landscape and a conservation area. Does it respect the character? I think the argument by the officer is that it actually does. There are questions, I suppose, on the cumulative effects of all these aspects and whether those cumulative effects match up to something that's actually severe in terms of its positioning within our assessment as we think of it. The officer view is that it is not severe and the impacts fall materially short of the high threshold set in the NPPF, which therefore the argument is that they overpower that. Am I running out of time? Okay. I'll try and rush through. Have we got another minute or two? Okay. There's a whole lot of reasons in the officer's report that obviate some of the adverse comments. So what I would say is I find it difficult at the moment to see any strong reason that would not be subject to appeal. And if we actually said no to this, I think we would be likely to lose an appeal. So I think we need to bear in mind that the officer's appraisal, which is fairly extensive, and its recommendation seems to me to be very, very sound. So I think we should be very careful in refusing this. I would like to sort of reserve a right to make a proposal after I hear the comments from the rest of the committee.
I was going to say that anyway, John. Don't make a proposal now. We'll make a
Yes.
proposal at the end. Thank you, John. So I'll open it up now to other members' questions. Councillor Driscoll.
Yeah, like John, I find, you know, this is quite a difficult balance, I think. Obviously the cottage in the wood is, you know, a strong local business, part of the tourism and contributes significantly to the economy of the Malvern Hills district. So anything that we can do to support businesses like this should be supported. And like many commentators, I suppose I'm also concerned around the traffic impacts and I suppose the noise impacts that will impact on local residents. I suppose my question is, I know Worcestershire County Council have recommended refusal, but has any work been undertaken to specifically quantify the exact nature of the impact? Because I hear from the agents or the owners that a lot of this is associated with current activities at the centre, which would indicate that there's not going to be any additional traffic. Is there any guarantee that that is the case, or any conditions that that is the case? Or is it likely to attract, you know, for general hire, lots of additional visitors in addition to the residents of the hotel, which obviously could generate significant amounts of traffic? So 2 questions around quantification and this issue around whether additional visitors are really residents that are going to be there anyway, or really in addition to the resident capacity of the hotel.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. I'll ask Simon to respond on those because I know he's been anticipating questions like that. So thank you.
What I can tell you, and I can recall my conversation with the site operator during the site visit, which sort of touched on this point, was that obviously some of the events which would be held in the venue would be in association with the guests staying in the hotel. So they'd already be guests at the hotel who'd be also guests at the event, particularly if it was something like a wedding function, for example. So you'd envisage that the bride and groom would be staying in the hotel and some of the guests. So there'll be some instances where there'll be less traffic just as a consequence of an event being held, because some of it would already be from people at the hotel. But there may be other events where that's not the case. You can't really have a planning condition which seeks to control who specifically is visiting an event. You know, that's not practically enforceable. But you'll have seen from the report that officers are satisfied that there is adequate parking provision within the hotel, given the additional proposed. That information summarised at paragraph 627 and 628 in terms of parking capacity, and of course that assumes that a significant number would be coming by private car, but of course if it's an event where people are enjoying a drink, I suspect they won't be driving themselves, so that'll be less vehicle movements. I think one has to bear that in mind when thinking about an event and vehicle movements and how many there might be. Does that help?
Yeah, and just the other one, I think I just see it actually about, is anything to quantify the amount of those movements? Has any modelling been done to quantify that? It looks like, just reading it here, that highways haven't done any kind of modelling at all.
No, they've not done any detailed analysis now to sort of further support their objection. They've just looked at the characteristics of the road and made a comment accordingly. I think that's and that's why I think the case officer on balance has taken a different view from the Highway Authority.
That's a good idea. Whilst done, whilst examining this application, my attention was drawn to the statutory committee responses. Looking at this, I see two letters, one from 26th of January and the other from the 11th of June, provided by the Highways Department. They expressed the same concerns that John Gallagher and Councillor Driscoll have expressed in regard to traffic motion and parking, and asked the applicant for more information. Having received this information, they are still unsatisfied. As a result, both letters recommended refusal of the application. I'll be interested to hear the case officer's reaction to this.
Well, both of those comments were received before the case officer put pen to paper in terms of preparing the report to members this evening. So the report reflects or addresses those comments. That's covered at section 6.2 over about 3 pages, as you'd expect when, because I accept, you know, it's not every day I bring an item to committee where officers are recommending, making a recommendation which is contrary to an objection from the Highway Authority. So that warrants, you know, a reasoned response. In the officer's view, that's set out in the report. Members don't have to agree, of course, but that's officer's position. We think there's adequate parking, and that there wouldn't be a severe cumulative impact as a consequence of the proposal. The point I'd just like to briefly make is that the proposed use is, let's say, displacing a the former use, which whilst wouldn't have necessarily generated comparative vehicle movements, would have generated some movements, and wouldn't have been subject to the same controls as this proposal.
Thank you, Chair. I attended the site visit yesterday, which was very helpful. It's the sort of site where you have to see it to understand, you know, the constraints and the opportunities that the site affords. Because before that, I had read the officer's report and hadn't really found anything in the report that made me have reservations about it. But I have to say the site visit did give me reservations because of the topography and the relatively limited nature of the tarmac track and so on. There's not much opportunity for passing and all the rest of it. So traffic movements, I think, you know, is a real concern, and I hadn't got the sense from reading the report that there was a very clear traffic management plan. It's not the sort of landscape that lends itself to having such a thing. It's a difficult one. So whilst I, you know, support the idea in principle, I think it is stretching somewhat our view about the reasonable protection of our hills and management of traffic therein. And I really feel I am minded to refuse or recommend a refusal for this, because I think it is just one step too far in a really rather difficult landscape. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, I can see, like others, that it's a finely balanced one, and I understand the concerns clearly that are being voiced. And but I think, on balance, I would be minded to go with the officer recommendation, and I think that's because I think it's already commercially used. There are already challenges with the flow of the traffic, so I don't think it's this new development that is the issue. 28 metres from the nearest other accommodation, protections for neighbours in terms of their amenity through noise and light restrictions, and adequate parking for capacity, which has been highlighted. So I think that, and the linked nature of the use of this building to the existing hotel and the jobs, of course, the economic rationale is very powerful with the 8 jobs and the 3 managerial new jobs, local supplier, and of course a growing tourism economy. So I think the challenges that are being highlighted already exist, and I think the officer makes that case well in his assessment. I do understand, of course, the concerns of our residents, but I suppose finally my views are weighed by the fact that if it came to appeal, I feel, as Councillor Gallagher says, the defensibility of refusal might be very hard to justify in material terms. So I'm kind of minded to go with the officer recommendation in this instance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nielsen. Fran or Malcolm, do you want to speak? Which one wants to speak first?
Is that all right? Ladies first. Okay, I think the question is really whether economic growth carries more weight than the opinion of Highways, the AONB, and the local residents. We used to live, well, for 35 years, actually really near to the cottage in the wood, and I know perfectly well that public transport is appalling. You can forget anybody going to the hotel going there by bus. It's just not going to happen. The on-demand bus that's mentioned in the report is only working between 7 in the morning and 7 at night, which aren't really peak event times. I also wonder whether 8 full-time jobs for 40 people is really realistic. It seems, 1 to 5, quite a high ratio. So that's my thought on this.
Councillor Malcolm Victory?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I was with the parish council when we first discussed this, and we responded to the many concerns from residents. I went to the site visit yesterday, and I have to say I understood the location and the potential problems much better as a result of that visit. I think that the highway issue is one that one is not going to get rid of. It exists already. The turn from Holywell Road into the Cottage in the Wood access road is very difficult, and I've heard stories at least of HGVs getting into problems going round that, which I can fully understand. However, the increase in traffic resulting from this proposal, I don't think is going to dramatically change that picture. That picture is one which we have accepted for however many years, probably decades, and that's not going to go away. The increased traffic is going to come at certain periods of the day, and I doubt very much if it's going to occur late at night. Most of the guests for wedding events at the chapel, which is what it's intended for, will be housed at the Cottage in the Wood. So it's not necessarily going to increase the number of vehicle movements. It all depends how heavily the hotel is already booked. So you could argue that point either way, in my opinion. One of the complainants talked about the local nature recovery strategy, since the Cottages in the Wood is in the conservation area, and I know for a fact that there are bats locally, but having looked at the specific sections of that and how they don't overcome the not limitations, the stipulations in the SWDP, I think those have to be put aside. There is no public transport, so taxis might be used, but certainly not buses. And I think the projections in the letter we were circulated to Joshua, I think they are a bit wishful, but on the whole, I think it would be a mistake for us to refuse this application, because the Cottage in the Wood is a valuable resource for the area, for jobs and the economy. Added to which, as Councillors Gallagher and Nielsen said, it would be likely overturned on appeal, because I can't see the relevant justification within the rules. So I won't continue any further, but that's my position. Thank you.
Thank you, Malcolm. Any other comments, or I will ask Councillor Gallagher to oh, did you want to speak, Chan?
Yes, I'd like to speak, please. It's very hot here today. This proposal sounds very interesting at the moment. It says, the management says it's going to be an annex to the hotel. Now, is there a guarantee on that? I mean, if the economic climate changes, the management can do whatever they want to promote the business. An event activity on that road is not suitable at all, in my opinion, because I've driven along that road before and it's chaotic. So that's my concern anyway. I think the highways have a valid concern. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask Councillor Gallagher to sum up now and to make a proposal.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And thank you to members for the debate on this. It's interesting just to hear all everybody's different opinions. But some of them, I think there appears to me to be a general feeling that this should be accepted. The officer's recommendations should be accepted. So I'm proposing that the recommendation with conditions 1 to 7 are accepted fully.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Nielsen? Sorry, I'll open it up to the vote now, which Rachel will count the votes. So, Rachel?
Thank you, Chair. So the proposal is to approve in line with officer recommendation. All those in favour, please raise your voting cards. That's 5 in favour, Chair. Those against? 1, 2, 3, 4 against. Motion is carried, Chair.
Thank you, everybody. That was a really good debate, and I think the balance of things like transport, economic development, everything else all came through in that, didn't they? So well done, everybody. And you can go back now to have a nice cool drink in the garden.